Good afternoon, morning, whatever. Go big or go home. This is our Mon show. I'm Old Man Troy, joined by the marvelous youngster, Jeff a.k.a. Kid Cunny on Twitter. Also rained down by you, my friend.
That's light. It was very nice earlier today. But I was working, so it was pointless for it to be nice outside, but get home and, nice and rainy. I was thinking about texting you. Well, I was going to text you, but I forgot to early this morning. Another 5 o'clock text. Should have been coming your way, but I forgot. So
I'm up. I was up at 2:30, my friend. 2:30, throwing computers against walls. Not literally. I did in my head. This is a college basketball show, so I can share this story. And this is what really makes me mad about betting. It's not the fact that I lost. It's the fact that a perennial favorite that should have won this game with their eyes closed lost in, was it double overtime, right? Double overtime or regular overtime? I think it was
just regular.
Regular overtime. So everybody listening in, Duke lost to Wake Forest last night. Number 7 team in the country against a Wake Forest team. And I heard this. What even put more salt in the wound is as I'm driving to my first stop, youngster, it was the 20-second short, whatever they call it. The guy has to mention Duke goes to Wake Forest, and Duke had more conference wins than Wake Forest had total wins.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Because here's the story for everyone. The loyal listeners know that I'm on Sportsbook every night. And I
By the way, it was double overtime. But go ahead.
All right. It didn't matter. I was sleeping.
Yeah.
And when I was sleeping, it was still a close game. And I'm like, Duke will pull away. Duke will pull away. They win this one. And Michigan State had already won. So I'm like, cool. I'm going to win some cash. I didn't know what was going on in the NBA, or I knew that some of my teams won. But for the loyal listeners, I dabble in sportsbook. I bet modestly. It's not like I lost my house. But I had 5 parlays last night. I was telling you, youngster, I really thought Michigan State was going to beat Iowa. So I took Michigan State.
Right.
That was one of my cornerstones. It was at home. Michigan State's been struggling. I'm like, it's getting close to March. They're going to win this game. And I got really good odds on it. And then I wanted to find another game, like a shoe-in, like almost a gimme. And that was Duke Wake Forest. So I just did Duke Wake Forest, $50 down on them. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, I'll do that. Then as I do every night, I went in, I did an NBA parlay, an NHL parlay, and I added Michigan State and Duke because I really thought both those teams would win. And I'm like, well, to increase my winnings, let me throw those 2 games in there because I'm pretty confident about it. So I had 4 other ones. And when I woke up this morning and saw the score, youngster, I'm like, oh, crap, I didn't win a 1. But then I really got going when I started looking, when I clicked on the lost button and I clicked on the parlay, and I saw green dot, green dot, green dot, red dot. Green dot, green dot, green dot, green dot, red dot. All of my parlays I would have hit on if Duke would have won. And it's hard to hit on parlays, even 5 and 6 teamers.
Right.
That's what really irked me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not irked about the Big Ten. And there's some exciting things going on. I'm a Badger fan, youngster, and I'll say this before we even get into the standings. They have overexceeded my expectations. When I click on the Big Ten standings and see Wisconsin's name in that little preview window near the top of the conference, I'm A-okay with that in 2020. A-okay with that. I did not think they would be there. I believe I said in our preview show I wasn't sure if they were going to make the Big Ten or the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So, as a Badger fan, I'm really jacked up about Wisconsin because they won, what is it, 4 in a row now or 5 in a row? We'll get to it. I think they won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about today's show because we're there. We've got 3-4 conference games left, and then it's Big Ten tournament, then it's the big dance. So as you can tell in my voice, I'm like really rapid fire today because I'm all jacked up, ready to rock and roll. But like we always do, important AP Top 25 notes, even though I don't care about the AP Top 25. Youngster's going to go over the relevant Big Ten teams. Then we're going to go over the Big Ten standings. We're going to take a look back at the games from last week, and then we're going to preview the next week's games. Take it away, Youngster.
Very quickly, Kobe King, who was a junior at Wisconsin, he left the team a few weeks ago, and we forgot to mention it on this show, but he committed earlier today to Nebraska. So he's transferring to Nebraska. It's just a matter of whether he has to sit out or not. Nebraska is going to try to get immediate eligibility, but obviously nobody knows with the NCAA why he would get immediate eligibility. I do not know. But, some players, regardless of the sport, they get immediate eligibility when it doesn't make sense. And then
that's exactly right. When it doesn't make sense, that's when it happens.
Right.
But he shouldn't.
And then when they should, they don't. So it's just, it is what it is. We'll see. But it's interesting. He averaged.
Funny thing is, Kevin, he leaves the team and the team starts doing better.
Right. Yeah.
It makes me wonder if there was some kind of tiff going on in the locker room.
Right.
Because you have to remember, I've shared this many times on this show as a coach. It only takes one or two to cause a big virus in the locker room. And basketball, you got such a small amount of players, you get a torn locker room. And so that might have a little bit to do with the transfer. Maybe it was like the coach saying, hey, this isn't acceptable. Ship up or shape out. Or what is shape up or ship out? I can't even say it right. So maybe that had something to do with it. Because they're playing a lot better since he left.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. But yeah, I would say from my little playing days that if you had a tiff, if you were annoyed, not even that you necessarily hated or whatever, a player on your team, but you pass them the ball and they shoot and they miss, it just really pisses you off. Like it just is what it is. That pisses you off. If you give up an open look to get an even better look to someone you don't really get along with and then they miss, it's like, oh, Lord, you have to be kidding me. So it just drains your energy. And that's just one player on a basketball team. Like you said, there's only so many, and there's only so many that actually get in the game. Maybe there was a personal side. I have no idea. We have no idea. But, yeah, they have been playing better since he left. Whatever, why ever that is. But in any case, that's news. Top 25, Kansas is up to number 1. There's something else I want to pair with this, but Kansas is up to 1. For the Big Ten, let's see here. Maryland is at 9 now. Penn State fell all the way down to 16. Iowa 18, Michigan 19, Ohio State 23, Michigan State 24, and then you got Illinois, and I'm assuming there's more. Yeah, Wisconsin receiving votes. So plenty of Big Ten teams doing well, obviously. Nothing crazy there. The one thing I wanted to mention with that, too, is this past weekend for the top 25, and Troy already mentioned Duke losing a day ago. We're recording this on Wednesday the 26th. They lost the 25th. And on Saturday, this past weekend, like for the top 25, this is what college basketball is this season. Number 19, Marquette lost. Number 1, Baylor lost. Number 2, Gonzaga lost. Number 4, San Diego State lost. I know there's some other ones in here. Let's see. Number 24, Arizona lost. Number 18, Colorado lost. And number 22, Houston lost. That was in one day. That was not a week. That was one day for the top 25. And then on Sunday, number 7, Maryland lost.
Here's the thing. Before you move on, of those games, really the only acceptable one that I'll take is the Baylor loss because they played Kansas.
Right.
I mean, that's a tough game. I actually picked Kansas. I thought Kansas would win that game. So,
I agree.
But you look at even Marquette. I mean, they had a tough game, but I picked Marquette in my college basketball parlay. They should have won that game. I mean, not after watching part of the game. But when you look at the game before it starts, Marquette should win that game. Marquette's a better team. But that's why you play the 40 minutes.
Recently. Yeah. It seems like every team has 7+ losses. Like, it's almost hard to find a team that doesn't have 7+ losses. There's like 10 that haven't been beaten many times already. And then again, Sunday.
But they're beatable.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Penn State lost on Sunday, 21. Butler lost. That's just one weekend. There was like 12 top 25 teams that lost. It's insane. But again, that's college basketball this year. It's wide open. There are some teams that are really strong. Like, I think Kansas is really strong. Maybe they're the best team in the country, but like, if that Kansas team plays any of the Villanova teams that won, I wouldn't say Virginia from last year. I would say Virginia from last year would beat them. But I think there's a number of teams last year that would beat this Kansas team. I think that any of those Villanova teams that won a few years ago, they would beat this Kansas team. Like, it's this year's winner to me is not going to be some great team. This is a really good Kansas team, but they're not great. They don't have Embiid and Wiggins and, some senior point guard leading the way. Like, it's just a really good Kansas team. And this year that might be good enough to win the whole thing. But we'll see. Bracketology. Usually in the Big Ten there's been 11 teams. It's kind of shrunk to 10 as of the last couple of weeks. It stays at 10 according to Joe Lunardi coming into this week. Last 4 in, there's no Big Ten teams. Last 4 buys, Indiana's in there. The Big Ten standings, the 3 teams I've been looking at as bubble teams just because of their overall record, were Wisconsin, Purdue, and Minnesota. And because in the non-conference those teams didn't necessarily do great, so I was curious to see how those teams would end up, whether they'd make the NCAA tournament, what they would need to do in the Big Ten tournament. Because, again, it's not as though they were dominating in the Big Ten, but since I brought that up a couple weeks ago, again, like we mentioned before, Wisconsin's won 4 straight. They're now 17-10 overall. You get 2 more wins. I mean, there's only 4 Big Ten games left.
Get 2, go 2-2 and 1 win in the Big Ten tournament, and bam, there's your 20.
They go 2-2, they're in. They go 1-3 and lose immediately in the Big Ten tournament. I almost think they're in. They're 11-9 in the best conference in the country. I don't know. I really do think that 18 wins, depending on the team, could get in this year, which is, again, I'd have to check the history on it, but that might be an all-time low for an at-large bid. I think that's how much respect.
I'm going to jump in here before I lose my train of thought because when you're looking at your AP top 25, what did Dayton do?
Dayton keeps winning.
Okay, so here's my thing in that conference, though, Kevin.
Yeah.
What if Dayton loses in their conference tournament?
No, I know.
Dayton,
but Wisconsin right now.
But I'm saying what Wisconsin is, but I'm talking about like a Purdue or Minnesota that's on the ball.
No, yeah. Yeah.
It now takes away Lunardi's 10 because I know Dayton is rolling along, but this is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. And the reason I bring it up is because of the way college basketball is this year. Dayton already knows they're in. Does winning their conference tournament really matter to them?
No.
Is that the final prize? No. I'm not saying that they're going to rest guys and they're going to lose on purpose. But are those players really going to be motivated in their conference tournament? Like, I got to play another game. Come on, let's just get to the big dance.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're going to lose because they've been playing really well, but they have really nothing to play for when they start that conference tournament.
Right.
They're a lock to be in the Big Ten. Now, seeding could be of big importance to them, and that's what the coach can use.
Right. At best, if everything goes right, hey, we won our conference tournament, we've won 20 straight, we deserve a 1 seed. Or you lose in the conference tournament, and it's like, oh, well, we're a 2 seed. Like, it is what it is. You know, it's not that big of a deal. But, yeah, the coach obviously has to use something to get his players to get up and play 100% every single game.
But I wanted to bring that up before I lost that train of thought because I know Lunardi still has 10 in there. I'm actually starting to look at it now because we're close. But, again, it doesn't bring into the factor of these mid-major conferences, teams like Dayton and those tournament or those conference leaders who are pretty much a shoe-in to the big dance if they lose in their conference tournament. That could be disaster for the Big Ten because you've got to start pulling teams from somewhere, because these teams are going to get in. But I wanted to throw that out there. Hopefully everything goes as planned because I want more Big Ten teams in there. I want more than 8. I do. I'm greedy. Oh, yeah. I'm a greedy go big or go home show host. I want 10. I want 10 from the Big Ten. Want them all. Let's go.
Would be very cool. Wisconsin's 17-10. They're an 8 seed according to Lunardi. Again, I mean, at this point, you almost have to lose out, in my opinion. I think 10-10 in the Big Ten, and you're in, barring something ridiculous. Like Minnesota could be maybe one of those cases. I guess Purdue, if they win out, they'd be 10-10. And that's. Those two teams are perfect examples. Like Minnesota's 13-13 overall, Purdue's 14-14. So those two teams, maybe if they go 10-10 in the Big Ten, that's not good enough. Like Minnesota goes 3-1, they finish 10-10. They're 16-14 overall. If you go 1-1 in the Big Ten tournament, even you win one game, oh, nice job, Minnesota, good job, and then you lose to a top 25 team. That's. It almost sounds like
they'd have to get up to 18. There's no way a 17 team's getting it.
No way. 17. No, 17's pushing it. But 18 right now, like every team in the Big Ten in the top 10 have 18 wins except Wisconsin has 17. The top 10 teams have 18 plus, and they're all 8-8 or better. So it's, number 10? Yeah, number 10 Ohio State at 8-8 in the conference is, I guess, they are 2 games back of third. 3 through 10, there's a 2-game separation. 8-8.
So you bring up a good point. 8-8 is 10th place in the Big Ten.
Yeah, everyone's beating up on Nebraska and Northwestern.
I want every listener out there, if you're in front of a computer, if you're listening to this on a computer, if you're driving, do it when you get home. Go to NCAA or type in, college basketball standings. And the window I come up with, Kevin, has all the conferences on top of the preview bar, and I can click on whatever conference I want, and I can look at the standings. I want listeners to go and look at the standings of every other conference. Find a conference where the 10th place team is 500 in their league. It's not going to happen. It's not there. I don't even think the ACC is there. I think the ACC maybe goes 6 or 7 down. I think it's 6 or 7 down. Maybe an 8th. I don't know. But
6.
If you're listening in on a computer, just do it. Go see if you can find a conference where the 10th place team is at 500.
Troy, the 5th place team. The 5th place team in the ACC is 8-8. The ACC is not good at all. At all this year.
Well, Wake Forest is good.
Yeah, Wake Forest is praying that they make they're
not even going to make the NIT. You got to be 500 to make the NIT. They're not even making the NIT.
No, they're not.
They just won their national title last night.
Yeah.
That was it. Because there's no postseason for them. Watch them go on and win the ACC tournament now. Just because I said that.
Yeah, 10 Big Ten teams. They look like locks to me, barring, again, losing out to me. You're not, to me, even Indiana, you finish 9-11 in the Big Ten, you finish 19-12 and then I guess you lose 19-13 overall, 19 wins, 9-11 in the. That's, to me, that's getting in this year. That's going 1-4 the rest of the way, including the Big Ten tournament. It's nearly to the point to me where
don't they play Northwestern tonight? I know we're going over the schedule, but I think doesn't Indiana play Northwestern tonight?
Let me take a look. Let's see here. No, they don't.
Does Indiana plays tonight though, don't they?
No, they play Thursday. They play at Purdue.
Well, I know Maryland and Minnesota play tonight. We'll go over the schedule. I was looking this morning when it was like 2:45 in the morning.
Yeah. But yeah,
getting a little preface from my sports book. That's what I do during the day, in between my stops. I'm thinking about what I'm going to bet when I get home.
There you go. So yeah, that to me, almost 10 teams are already locked in. Almost. Not exactly, but almost. One team might have an unbelievable collapse, and maybe the Big Ten only gets 9, but I don't know. And at this point, Minnesota, Purdue, again, 13-13, 14-14 overall. You're pushing it.
Yeah, they're going to have to do some damage in the Big Ten tournament. You know,
Purdue's lost 14 games.
Yeah, well, they'd have to get where depending on how their last 4 games play out, and if they go 500, let's just they only got 3. They're down to 3. Okay, so let's say Purdue goes 2-1. That puts them at 16-15, and then if they won 3 games, that would get them to the semifinal. So they play day 1, day 2, day 3. They'd get to the semi. And if they lost in the semifinals, that would be 19 wins.
No, yeah,
so
that'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, 19 would, and the same thing with Minnesota. If they go 2-1, they'd have to do more. I think they'd have to get to the final. I don't think if Minnesota, Kevin, has 18 wins, they're in. I don't, because the way that they've been playing as of late, and 2-1. I mean, that would put them at 15. They'd have to.
So they go 3-1. They've got an extra game to play. It's weird that Purdue's played 17. I think Purdue and Iowa are the only ones. Michigan State, there must be one more that's played 17.
Well, there's got to be. There's got to be.
Rutgers has, yeah. But most of the teams have 4 games left. Some have 3. Yeah. Down to the home stretch.
Go through the standings real quick, because it has completely changed since last week.
Maryland's 12-4. Despite their loss, they're still on top by a couple games. Game and a half, I should say. Michigan State 11-6. They're up by half a game on teams 3 through 5, which are Penn State, Wisconsin, and Illinois, all 10-6. Iowa's 10-7. Michigan's the hottest team in the Big Ten. They've won 5 straight. They were 13-9. Now they're 18-9. Now they're 9-7. They were 4-7. I mean, basically since they got Livers back, and it's not the exact date, but they've been playing better, which, again, for a team that needed scoring, and arguably you got your best.
They got a couple wins on the road. I mean, there's your that's how you get a little winning streak, like Wisconsin and Michigan. 4 wins, 5 wins. That's because they found a way to win a game on the road that's winnable. Again, it's hard to win on the road. Like, that's why I said, as bad as Michigan State was playing, Iowa going there, Iowa was playing decent basketball. The odds makers gave Michigan State good odds. I mean, as far as a bettor is concerned. That's why I'm taking Michigan State. It's at home. It's tough to win Big Ten at home. I mean, those Big Ten records, again, we've thrown this out to listeners already. You're in front of the computer looking at other conferences. Look at the Big Ten home records. Unbelievable. Continue.
Yeah. The top 7 road teams, or top 7 teams in the Big Ten, have a road record of at least 4-6. So at least they're, at least you're competing. You're winning 1 out of 3. But I don't know. It is what it is. They're starting to, things have, not starting to, as of a few weeks ago, these better teams are getting road wins. And again, Michigan winning 5 straight, Wisconsin winning 4 straight. You have to win some on the road, obviously, at that point. So, anyway, I guess the rest of the standings. Michigan's 9-7, Rutgers 9-8. Rutgers has been not playing well as of late. They're still 18-7.
Well, we talked about it last week, youngster. It was a big week for Rutgers.
Right. And they lost 2. So, but they're still 18-10. They're still 9-8. To me, they only need one more win, in my opinion. Then you're 10-10. Then you're 19-12. You finish 19-13. You finish 10-10 in the Big Ten. You're perfectly fine, in my opinion. They're trying.
Well, they got 3 games left, and I would imagine at least one's at home, and they played good at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's their home record now?
17-1. The only undefeated Big Ten team at home is now Maryland, 15-0. So 22-5 overall. Like I was saying before, it's hard to find a team that doesn't have 7 losses or more. There's only one in the Big Ten. It's Maryland, who's 22-5.
That could change before the end of the year.
Oh yeah, agreed.
I mean, it could. I mean, they are. When you look at these standings, Michigan State again, Kevin, is coming to March. Izzo will have them ready. But Maryland is really playing the best basketball, probably a little better than Michigan. I mean, Michigan's playing well, but Maryland, they're just cruising. They're putting together, a nice win streak to get to the top of the Big Ten, and now they're holding steady. But again, it's a Big Ten, and week to week, that's why I really wanted you to go over the standings. It has changed where the positioning is in the Big Ten, because we just talked about it. 10 teams, 10 solid teams that could be NCAA tournament teams. And 11 and 12 aren't too shabby. 11 and 12 aren't too shabby either. 13 and 14, they're shabby.
Yeah, for sure. They haven't pulled off Nebraska Northwestern. They haven't pulled off that one win yet.
Not yet.
It's
still happening.
I
thought Bucky Badger was going to be the one. Bucky Badger was almost the one until they figured out, hey, we shouldn't probably lose this game. Yeah. I think that might have been the game that propelled their win streak. I think that might have been win 1 of the 4.
I don't remember.
All right.
Might have been.
Continue.
So Minnesota 7-9, Purdue 7-10, and then you got the 2 bottom dwellers. So it is what it is. Last Tuesday, Maryland at home against Northwestern. Maryland took care of business. They won by 9. Congratulations. Illinois went to Penn State. Illinois went to Penn State and they won. DeSunmu, who was questionable, we talked about that. He actually played. We didn't necessarily think he needed to. I didn't think he would, but he did. He had 24 points. He was a star. And that's what he's supposed to do. And that's what Illinois is capable of. They're capable of going on the road and beating a top 10 ranked team. They're deep. They've got good guards. They've got good bigs. They've got size. They're good. They're good all around. So that's just another very nice team in the Big Ten. For him to play, that doesn't surprise me at all that Illinois went on the road and won. It really doesn't. Because I personally, honestly, truly, neutral court, I would pick Illinois to beat Penn State. So for Illinois to go on the road, that doesn't surprise me. It is what it is. It's an upset, I guess. But again, I think Illinois overall, I would pick Illinois.
It was an upset, youngster, because of the ranking Penn State had acquired. And they did it. They did it by going on, what was it, a 9-game winning streak?
At least 8. Yeah, it might have been 9.
I did not think they were one of the top 10 teams in the country.
No.
Nor do I think they're one of the top 10 teams in the country right now. I don't think they're one of the top 20 teams in the country. But when you win games and other teams lose, that's the way the voting works. Now, they are doing much better than I ever expected, but I still want to, if I was doing a true ranking, throw the records out and just take the teams and rank them in the country, Penn State's not sniffing the top 20, youngster. They're not. But they're a good, solid team, but I wouldn't put them in the top 20.
I think this year they might be.
I wouldn't put them in the top 20. Sorry. I got other teams that I would probably put ahead of them.
you're starting to scrape once you get to the bottom of the top 25, as crazy as that is. But I don't know. Anyway, Wisconsin at home against Purdue. Wisconsin won 69-65. I didn't see that game, but
that was a game Purdue needed to win. That was one of those road wins that they would have needed to be a little more solid to get into the NCAA tournament, and Wisconsin needed the win too. That was a big game, and that was two teams that were basically that was like a tournament game right there, because the winner then positions themselves in the upper half of the Big Ten. The loser falls into that bottom half, and record-wise puts themselves behind the 8 ball. Wisconsin took care of business.
Yeah. Wednesday, the 19th, Michigan went to Rutgers and won 60-52. That was, again, the first Rutgers home loss of the season. That put Michigan's win streak, I think, at 4 at the time. Now it's at 5. I think I know Michigan's playing good basketball now. They are healthy, healthier than they have been. So, again, overall, do I think Michigan's better than Rutgers? Probably. Realistically, probably. And now, even you look at records, and you would say, that they actually have a better record than Rutgers now. Big Ten and overall. They're a half game up in both. But Michigan's trending upward. Rutgers is trending downward. But, good time to be trending upward going into the month of March. Maybe you're doing it too early. Who knows? But I think it has to do with...
no, this is about the right time. Right now, youngster, you got 2 weeks left in the Big Ten. Then you got your weekend tournament, and then, bam, we're right there.
Yeah.
This is the time. This is the time you want to make your move. The last 5 games of your conference. Time to go. Yeah. It's go time.
Also, I think this was a dagger for Minnesota. I think we both thought Northwestern could have delivered the dagger a few days earlier, but they didn't. But Indiana went to Minnesota and won 68-56. This, again, that helped Indiana, obviously, but Minnesota, that put them at 12-13. Or sorry, I guess the Minnesota Northwestern game was a few days later. But that put Minnesota under 500 overall on the season. That's, Minnesota's got talented players, but, they're just not playing good basketball as of late. It takes them to play a bad team to win right now. And same goes for Purdue. They've lost 4 straight. So they're not taking care of business when they, quote-unquote, should at home. But that was huge for Indiana. Thursday, Iowa beat Ohio State 85-76. Iowa was at home. Garza 24-6. That's nothing new. It's almost, 6 rebounds. You look at that, and it's like, what was wrong?
Seems kind of low.
Right. But Iowa won, beating a good Ohio State team, a hot Ohio State team at that point. So, Iowa's a really strong team. Again, they can beat anybody in the country, in my opinion. It would surprise me if they beat, a couple of the top dogs, but realistically, it's no shocker. The top 5 or 6 in the Big Ten, to me, can beat anyone in the country on any given night, and it shouldn't be surprising, I guess, realistically. Not this year. Maybe in past years, but not this year. Michigan State went to Nebraska. They took care of business. They won by 21 points. There's nothing really to go on about.
Move forward.
Friday the 21st, no games. Saturday, there was only 1 in the Big Ten. Michigan went to Purdue, and Michigan won. That may have been the dagger for Purdue. This would have been a potential tournament win for Purdue. That would have put Purdue over 500. That would have put Purdue at 8-9 in the Big Ten. That would have been nice. But again, Michigan went on the road and won. At the end of the day,
what a week for Michigan.
Yeah.
2 road wins.
Right.
I mean, there's some teams that have 2 total road wins. They got 2 in 1 week against good.
Yeah, Minnesota's got 2
against good teams.
Minnesota's got 2 road wins this whole year. Indiana's got 2 road wins this whole year. Rutgers has 1. Michigan got 2 in 1 week. So, yes, Michigan's playing good basketball right now. Mo Wagner's brother, he's stepping up. He had 22 points in that game. This team's, they have Simpson, they have Teskey, but they're getting other guys to. Livers is obviously one of them, but he had 19. They're getting other guys to fill the void, and they only go probably 7-8 deep, but probably realistically more like 7. But
well, we mentioned last week, youngster, how it sometimes takes a little bit of time to get accustomed to a new coach.
Right.
And maybe Howard is going to be a good coach. Again, I wasn't jumping up and down on that bandwagon being like, oh, my God, Michigan just got the steal of the century. I wasn't sure. No head coaching experience in college. Maybe it took a little bit of time to adjust to the players to adjust to him, get used to what he wants to have done, and they're playing good basketball. So maybe this is something to look forward to if you're a Michigan fan. We'll see. There's still 2 weeks left in the Big Ten. Like you said, is it a little bit too early? Well, if you can continue this and play on this wave, I'm not saying they're going to win a national championship. But I'm just saying they've won on the road. They beat Rutgers at home, who had previously been unbeaten home, 17-0. I don't care if that was covered with cupcakes in the beginning of the year. You're sitting at 17-0 at home, 15 Big Ten conference games into the season. You're winning
right.
Big Ten games at home. Not all of them. You can't play Northwestern every week. So that's a big win. And to go to Rutgers and give them their first home loss, that's huge. So, Michigan has just put themselves in great position now to lock into the tournament. That's all I got.
No question. On Sunday the 23rd, Ohio State at home against Maryland. That was huge for Ohio State. They won by 7. That was Maryland's first loss in a while. Ohio State, they're starting to play like they were earlier this season when I was really buying into the hype train. And then they started playing like crap, and I looked like an idiot. But they're starting to get it together again. So Ohio State's a good basketball team. They have a number of really good players. There's not much more for me to say there without going, crazy in depth on the roster and But that was a huge.
Well, I'll be general with this, youngster, with Ohio State. You talk about them playing good basketball early. That's great. We talk about the Big Ten being this dominant conference. It's easy to go into a 4 or 5 game skid. Just look at your schedules. I mean, unless you're going to dabble a little Northwestern in there. I mean,
right.
That's the medicine to get rid of your losing streak. But if you look at that conference, you look at that schedule, and I don't have their schedule in front of me. I know they weren't playing great basketball at the time, but a lot of times that can be your opponents that you're playing. You could be playing a Michigan State, a Maryland, a Rutgers, a Wisconsin, an Iowa, Indiana, Illinois. I mean,
here's
right
their
there.
schedule, Troy. I brought it up. They were 1-6 in a 7-game stretch. After they beat Kentucky, they went 1-6. They lost to West Virginia, who's been a top 25 team all year long. They lost to Wisconsin. They lost at Maryland. They lost at Indiana. That was a 4-game losing streak. They beat Nebraska, no surprise there, and then they lost 2 straight again. They lost at Penn State, perfectly respectable, and then they lost to Minnesota at home. That was a bad loss. Not necessarily a bad loss, but they should have won that game. So that they went 1-6 at that point. Then they went 5-6 in their next 8. Again, they just beat Maryland. Their 2 losses at Wisconsin, at Iowa. So yeah, I mean, that 1-6 stretch, the only loss that you can say, they should have won that game was Minnesota.
And that was earlier in the year, though, and Minnesota was playing much better basketball earlier in the year.
Right. The other
at that time, if we went back to our podcast, youngster, Minnesota in Lenardi's bracketology, I think they would have been in.
Yeah, they were. At one point, they were. So, that's not a bad loss, realistically. So.
Well, it looks like one now because of where Minnesota's at.
Right.
But you got to take into effect when the loss happened. It was earlier in the year. It's not like it happened yesterday. A loss to Minnesota right now is a bad loss, and a loss to Purdue right now is a bad loss for any of these teams on the bubble. For Minnesota and Purdue, it is pure got to win out.
Yeah. And there's also a difference between a loss to Minnesota, who's 7-9 in the Big Ten. Like, you're calling it a bad loss. Like, it's a loss you shouldn't have. It's, you should have won that. To me, bad losses are like Nebraska Northwestern. Those are bad losses. Losing to Wake Forest, that's a bad loss. That's a trash team that's not even close to any postseason tournament. This Minnesota's
You just had to rub a little salt on my wound again, didn't you?
Well, I'm a Duke fan, so the double salt in the wound there. I'm not exactly happy about it either. But for you, cost you money, so it's a little different. Anyway.
Yeah, but I'm still surviving today.
Yeah.
Life will go on. I got a car to drive. I got a house to go home to. I got food to eat.
There you go.
And I didn't empty my bank account on Duke.
Right. Also on Sunday, Indiana at home against Penn State. Again, that was huge for Indiana. Indiana, what was the they went to Minnesota and won. So again, that was nice. And then on Sunday, they won at home against Penn State. So that was a very nice week for Indiana. Again, it puts them, instead of 6-8, you're 8-8. Instead of 16-9, you're 18-9. You're looking, again, almost like a lock to me. To me, they probably need two more. They're absolutely a lock. One more win the rest of the year. I still think they're in, honestly. But two more, 20 wins, that's an automatic lock this year for the Big Ten. So, again, Penn State's a really nice team. I think overall they're better than Indiana, realistically. Neutral court, I'd still pick Penn State to beat Indiana. But Indiana at home, they took care of business there. So they were up 13 by half. So that was, lost the second half, but they still won the game. Wisconsin at home against Rutgers. Wisconsin still doing well at home. Rutgers still going into their slide. We've talked about these teams already. Unless you got anything more on that, Troy.
Well, again, I'm a Badger fan, so I know loyal listeners, if you want to turn it off for 2 minutes, turn it off, because I'm just going to get excited as a fan, not as a show host. I mean, Kevin, come on. Wisconsin, this is a team that I don't want to say I was praying. I was being realistic. This is a team I thought was going to finish in that, and they still could. I mean, if they went into a slump here, they could. But this is a team I thought was going to finish around 8, 9, 10 in the Big Ten.
Right.
I remember our preview show. You had Wisconsin a little bit higher. You actually had in the tournament, I think. I did not have them in the tournament. And I'm, again, being realistic as a fan. It's like, man, I just don't like this team. I don't think they've got enough pieces. But, man, you look at this week, what they're doing, Rutgers at home. I know Rutgers doesn't play well on the road, but you still have to look at what Rutgers has accomplished this year. That used to be like, we're playing Rutgers. Second team, make sure you're ready to play because you'll be in the second half. Not anymore. Not this year. So that was a huge win for Wisconsin at home. And that's after that game, Kevin. Now I'm starting to believe team. I'm being a realistic fan. Is it a Sweet 16 team? Nah. No. You look where they're at in the standings. It's based on record. I wouldn't rank, like if you're going down and ranking the best teams in the Big Ten, I'm still not putting Wisconsin in the top 5.
No,
There's teams
and they're in
better
4.
than Wisconsin.
They're 4th right now. They're getting a double bye in the Big Ten tournament. I don't think they're that good either. But, they're tied with Illinois, so, goes one way or the other, one win. Illinois' way, and Wisconsin will be out of that top 4 spot.
But
again,
like you
for some
said,
teams,
that might be a benefit for Wisconsin, though, Kevin.
Yeah, that's
to
what
not
I was
have the double bye, because
Right.
it'll give them another game. I mean, now again, it's a double-edged sword. You get the other game. What if you lose?
Right.
Then that's terrible, right? But
Yeah.
the way Wisconsin's playing right now, that extra game, if they continue to play the way they are, play a little more consistent, and that's what I've seen the last week. If you remember, my big beef about Wisconsin is what team's going to show up in what half. You've got a really good team. Oh, man, look how great they're playing in the first half. But then look how piss poor they play in the other half, or vice versa. They start the game off crappy, and then they turn on the juice in the second half. So that was my big concern with Wisconsin. But that second game could really mean a lot. And I'm stuck in the middle of an intersection as we talk. So, go ahead. Sorry. It was like one of those yellow lights, and apparently there's a car broken down. So, all right, continue. The joys of doing the podcast while I drive.
Minnesota at Northwestern to close up Sunday. Minnesota won by 26 points. Again, these teams are, even Minnesota, is taking care of business against the Northwesterns and Nebraskas. The one thing I wanted to say, too, is if you're team 11 or 12 in the Big Ten this year, it's not terrible. You do get to play Nebraska or Northwestern in the first round. Get a little confidence, and then your next game is against team 5 or 6, which could be a team like Wisconsin, who's solid, but they're not great. You know? That's not insane to go and beat Wisconsin on a neutral court after you just got momentum and you just played and you're feeling good about yourself. That's not crazy at all. So would I pick Minnesota, Purdue to beat Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, those teams that could be around, Penn State even? No, I wouldn't. But would it be shocking? I mean, again, I like Illinois. I like Iowa coming into this year. I've liked those two teams all year long. But still, it shouldn't be a shocker. You have 12 at least decent teams. You have 10 good teams in the Big Ten for sure. So it's hard. It's hard in the Big Ten. But teams 11 and 12 in the Big Ten tournament, they shouldn't be too upset at that because you could go on an interesting little run. If things break your way. Anyway, Monday the 24th, Illinois at home against Nebraska. They won by 12. Congratulations. Tuesday, the 25th, Michigan State was at home against Iowa. This is the last game we're recapping. Michigan State won that one 78-70. They were down at halftime, and then they decided to score 51 points in the second half. So that'll help you.
Yeah, they struggled in the first half. Iowa got out to a lead and just, not like Iowa pulled away, but, man, Michigan State was struggling in the first half. And then second half, like you said, it's like they flipped the light switch and, bam, dropped down 51 against Iowa in the second half?
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that's Iowa's issue this year is I think a lot of teams can be inconsistent from half to half. But if you're more offensive-minded, you can give up 50 and a half, and it's like, damn, we just lost a game.
I remember old Iowa teams, Kevin, where teams wouldn't score 50 in a whole game against Iowa.
Yeah, that's changed now.
No, that was way back, though. That's way back. I remember. I'm an old guy.
That's true. Old man. But, yeah, Michigan State took care of business there. Wednesday, the 26th, there are a couple games. Penn State is at home against Rutgers. That could prolong Rutgers' little slump here. So not great for Rutgers again.
This is a big game for both these teams, Kevin, because both teams had that little mini slump we're talking about. Last week we were talking Penn State, Rutgers near the top of the Big Ten. This week they've slid down a little bit to the that 4, 5, 6 spot. Actually, isn't Rutgers at 7? Or are they at 6?
They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're down at 8.
Yeah, and last
they're
week,
9
what were they
overall.
I think they were 3 or 4 last.
They might have been 4. Maybe.
Either way, Penn State and Rutgers are now in the middle of the Big Ten. So the winner of this game gets a little bit of momentum and could vault up a little bit, which both these teams, Kevin, again, we go into ranking teams in the Big Ten. Do you rank Rutgers a little bit higher than their ace spot? Probably. And Penn State, again, maybe. I know they're having a nice year. But I think there's teams that are better than Penn State. But if they win and they get another win, they move up in the standings. So, I mean, these are two teams, Kevin, to me. You look at where we're at in the season. Is the loser in trouble? I don't think so. But the winner, very important for, one, the Big Ten tournament, because now you're talking about Penn State and Rutgers that are probably going to make the big dance. That double bye, a little more important for them because it's rest. So this is a big game toward that. And then when you look at it, it's also for seeding purposes because I think they're both in. So, again, the loser's not going to be in dire straits like, oh, my God, we lost. We might not make the tournament. Now, again, if either of these teams lose out, then you could be in trouble.
Penn State, they got 20 wins. They got 10 Big Ten wins. They're in, to me. They can lose out, in my opinion. But they'd be 20-12 overall and still have 10 Big Ten wins. If they go 0-5 in these last 5 possible games, I still think they're in.
that would be a 12 seed.
Right. Yeah. Probably not wrong. But Rutgers, they probably need to win one more, in my opinion. You can argue two, but in any case, Maryland at Minnesota, that would Troy. The line on this, for some reason, that I'm looking at, which whether it's right or wrong, it has to be at least close. I always go through ESPN, by the way, when I'm looking at the week prior, the week ahead.
No, they're giving Minnesota they were giving Minnesota love at 2:45 a.m.
Minnesota -1. They're favored to beat Maryland.
Yeah, they were, like I said, they were giving Minnesota some love at 2:45 a.m. I think it was plus 103. Maryland.
I don't understand.
Plus 103. Because you just have the spread. And I was talking about the money line. I don't know what it is. But, again, it's so funny because it's like they're almost enticing you to put money on Maryland. Like they know something we don't know.
Minnesota should not beat Maryland.
No, they shouldn't. So is this my Duke? Is this my Duke tonight? Because I'm taking Maryland. I would take Maryland if they were minus 350.
Right.
Because you're right. Maryland should not lose to Minnesota at this time of the year. Maybe Vegas is saying Minnesota is in desperation mode. Maryland is cruising. Maryland is in. They're traveling to Minnesota. But we've seen just recently, Kevin, Minnesota's not like, oh, my God, we got to be scared to walk on the court in Minnesota. Earlier in the year, yeah. But not right now. So, yeah, I was taking before even looking at the money line, I was taking Maryland, no matter what the spread was, as one of my locked teams to win tonight.
Right.
So that means that tonight, Maryland becomes my Duke. And Maryland's going to cost me money because they're going to go there. Vegas knows what they're talking about, and they're going to lose to Minnesota. That would just irk me. Go ahead. Carry on.
Thursday. This will be nice. Wisconsin at Michigan. ESPN 2. So, again,
well, it's two of the hottest teams based on winning records or winning streaks right now.
Yeah, the two hottest teams based on winning streak. So, yeah, Wisconsin on the road at Michigan. I would favor Michigan there, but
well, I'd even favor Michigan at Wisconsin. I really would put it. I would really put it there. Michigan, talent-wise, much better than Wisconsin. Wisconsin's playing good team basketball, but I'm waiting as a fan. And some people call me a pessimistic fan. I think I'm more real. I'm just, okay, they had a good week, and they put 4 games together, but in those 4 games, there's a Nebraska win. Okay? It still counts. You don't disregard it. But they were also losing that game, and I remember texting you, Bucky's going down. Bucky's going down. because they were so inconsistent in the first half. They do that against a Michigan team, they're done. And it only takes a 10-minute stretch for Wisconsin. They don't have the firepower, Kevin, to overcome a drought. Like, they darn near to win games against top 25 teams, they've got to play, and you're going to have slumps in a game. But they can't go on one of those 0 for 10 slumps, 8-minute slump without scoring a field goal. They do that, they're done. They can go on a 2-minute slump where they maybe give up a 6-point run. Even 8-point run to me is even how I'm sitting here hesitating. A 6-point run, okay, you can come back because it's 2 3-pointers. Wisconsin does not have the firepower to do that. And that's what I'm afraid of. And they do it against a Michigan, and they tend to do it a lot. Not in this they did it in the 4-game winning streak because they played a crappy first half. So they do it against Michigan, they're done. They do it in the Big Ten tournament against Purdue, they're done. That's how fragile Wisconsin right now, being the 4th-ranked team in the Big Ten. I don't think they're the 4th best team. I'd put them more down like 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there.
Big Ten standings have them 4th. If you're talking top 25, they're not even in there. There's 6 Big Ten teams in the top 25. And I agree, there are 6 Big Ten teams better than Wisconsin. And I think Illinois is better than Wisconsin. I think Illinois is better than Wisconsin.
I just mentioned. So here's the thing, Kevin. I just mentioned I didn't think Penn State was a top 20 team. Wisconsin's ahead of them in the rankings. Do you think I have Wisconsin as one of my top 20 teams in the country?
Well, they're tied.
No way in the world. No, I don't. I think Penn State's better than Wisconsin.
Right.
But Penn State's sitting right now, at 6?
No, they're 3rd.
They're 3rd.
Yeah, you think Penn State's way down there. They're tied with Wisconsin. They have the tiebreaker. They're 10-6. Wisconsin's 10-6. Illinois is 10-6.
That's because Penn State lost a couple games.
Right. They were doing so well that they lost 2 games, and now they're 10-6 and they're 20-7 overall. Quite ridiculous that Penn State was 20-5, but that's where they're at.
Carry on.
Also, Thursday, Purdue at home against Indiana. A nice another chance for Indiana to me to get a win there. Purdue again, if you want to start your run, this would be a nice time to do it.
No, it's not if they want to. It's if they need to. They lose this game, they're completely done, unless they win the Big Ten tournament. Right. And I don't see that happening. I mean,
no.
It'll be interesting. I'm actually excited about. And normally I don't get excited about a Big Ten tournament, an ACC tournament, a Big East tournament. I don't get excited about these end-of-the-year tournaments because usually it's like, okay, I just want to get to the big dance. I am really excited about the Big Ten tournament just because of the quality of play this year. So the winner of this Big Ten tournament, Kevin, is a true Big Ten champion in my mind. In prior years, you've had your juggernauts at the top. We always do our Big Ten tournament preview. The youngster and I go up head-to-head against each other. Old man always has some crazy upset going on. I'll tell you what, though, youngster, this year a 7 or an 8 seed in the conference final, that's not a crazy outburst. That could be a reality. That could be a true reality happening. So I'm excited, but Purdue needs to win. They lose, they're done. That's the bottom line. They're in desperation mode. That's it. That's all I got.
Northwestern at home against Illinois. I think Illinois gets the win there. And, again, they already have 10 Big Ten wins. But to avoid saying, oh, look, we lost 5 straight going into the tournament, this pretty much locks it to me. As ridiculous as that sounds, especially with 11 Big Ten wins, there's no way in the world that you're getting left out at that point. They'd also have 19 wins overall. So I think that is their clincher at Northwestern Thursday night.
There's a little Northwestern at home. Remember what I said. I'm still not backing down. Northwestern's going to have an upset somewhere. I don't know if this is it. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there that Northwestern's at home.
Those 2 teams have to be at home against Minnesota or Purdue, in my opinion. to have a
That's
chance.
not an upset. Kevin, I'm talking about I really believe one of those two teams is going to get a win against somebody else, and it's going to be a bad loss.
I'll disagree with you at this point. I was agreeing with you a couple weeks ago, but at this point, I'm disagreeing. There's only 4 games left.
All right. That's right. There's 4 games left. We'll see.
There's another chance. Nebraska at home against Ohio State. I think Nebraska's losing. So
you got Northwestern Nebraska at home.
There you go.
I know they're not juggernauts.
Yeah,
they're home games. You got to travel in the Big Ten. This. So on the flip side of this, if you're Illinois or Ohio State, you have to win these games. Like you have to win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You got to win. But if you're Northwestern or Nebraska, you're not going anywhere after this season is done. So, did you give up already? I don't know. Again, you got to be ready to play if you're Illinois or Ohio State. You don't want to have the mindset that you and I have right now on this radio show. They're just going to go there and they're going to win. We're going to go there and we're going to win. I go back to my coaching days, Kevin. This is the worst kind of game late in the season as a coach that I want to play, because no good can come from this. It's a game that we should win, that we need to win, but are my players going to take it serious because they're playing a bottom dweller?
Right.
These are the scariest games as a coach.
You're on the road, and you still should win by like 20 points. Which,
should.
That's hard to do.
And that's the mindset the players are going to have. And as a coach, it is so hard to prepare them mentally like, hey, you know what? It's Northwestern. They suck, but you got to be ready to play. You should win by 20, but you got to be ready to play. They're at the bottom of the Big Ten, but you got to be ready to play. You're talking to a 20-year-old kid. That's why I said, as a coach, these games scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if you get off to a bad start, all of a sudden trying to get your team back onto the right page, it can happen because these teams are terrible.
Right.
But how long are you going to fall downhill? Sometimes you don't overcome it. That's all I'm saying. They got to go on the road. You got a mindset of a 20-year-old. That's all I'm going to say. I don't expect it that. Like I said, somewhere along the line, I think they're going to win one. I'm not saying it's either one of these games, but I think they're going to get a win because of a team that's thinking that way, especially now as they keep losing. What's Northwestern's losing streak, 13?
11. Nebraska's at 12.
And what's Nebraska's?
12.
12. So you were an athlete, Kevin. I've let it sink into my head when I played. We're playing the Pissants down the road. They've lost 18 games in a row.
Right.
I'll just lace up my cleats. We'll win this game. Then all of a sudden they come on, they knock a goal in.
Right. You don't go into that game 100% effort-wise. At least I wouldn't. You just don't, because you know you can go 80% and still win the game.
All right, move on.
That's where it can bite you. Friday, there's no game. Saturday, there's 2 good ones. Penn State at Iowa. I think Penn State loses that game. So Penn State going into a little slide potentially here. And then Michigan State at Maryland. That's a nice game. Yeah, that's a nice game there. So
that is a big-time end-of-the-season game in the Big Ten. We're going to see if Michigan State is ready to play.
Yeah, to me, that's Elite Eight level. I mean, and again, if those two teams both made the Final Four, they shouldn't. But if they both made the Final Four, that wouldn't surprise me this year. I know, again, Michigan State has 9 losses, but they're just as good as teams. For them to upset the number 1 team in the country, again, maybe that's Kansas this year. That wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't. And yet Michigan State's been unranked. They're currently 24. South.
Yeah, they'll move. They'll move. Well, it depends on what they do Saturday.
Right.
If they go 1-1 this week, if they go 1-1 this week, if they went 1-1, if they lose to Maryland, they'll probably stay at 24. I can't see them dropping out of the top 25 with a win and a loss to Maryland.
Right.
But go ahead.
They would also have 10 losses on the season.
When's the last time Michigan State lost 10 in the season?
Right, let alone them being ranked number one in the country going into the year. And they're going to have 10 losses before the end of the regular season. That's crazy. Yeah.
It is crazy. And I said it last week. I still think Michigan State is one of those teams that could they make a run? Yeah. I really believe it. They're built to make a run. But
yeah.
We bring this up every once in a while, not having Langford out there. I mean, that's a big detriment to him.
Yeah.
That is a huge detriment. Is there any update on him? Because I know we had mentioned early in the year that there's that slight possibility that this injury could allow him to come back near tournament time. And you and I were like, is it really worth it?
I thought in December that he was ruled out for the rest of the year. Yeah, he's done for the year.
All right, so we never just updated that, and I never looked into it. I know we were talking, I think, when the injury first happened, that they thought maybe he could come back near tournament time if all went well.
Yep, agreed. And then I think he had a surgery on his foot and done for the year. So
that'll be a good one, though. I would imagine that was on prime time. Is that on ABC?
That's 8 p.m. ESPN. So.
ESPN.
Good stuff. Sunday, last day here, because Monday there's no games. Sunday the 1st, March 1st, getting into March. Illinois at home against Indiana. I think Illinois wins that one. I think they get a 2-game winning streak. Think they get to 20 wins total. I think they get to 12 wins in the Big Ten. I think Illinois propels in the top 25. I think that this will be a nice week for Illinois, in my opinion. Do you differ there, Troy?
Game's at Indiana, or is it at Illinois?
At Illinois.
No, it's at Illinois. Yeah, Illinois will win. Yeah.
They got a cupcake a few days earlier, and then they're at home against Indiana. So I think they're good to go there.
It'll be a tough game. It'll be a tough game, but it's at Illinois. I mean, look, you got the standings up. What's Illinois' home record? 14-3.
13-3. So
13-3.
To me, they're easily better than Indiana, and they're at home. To me, it's not even. I've been backing Illinois this entire year. So, to me, if they won by 15, that's a shrug of the shoulders to me, because they're just better, in my opinion. But I think highly of Illinois, more than the average person does. Ohio State at home against Michigan. Good game, obviously. That's on CBS on Sunday. Both these teams may be fishing for their 20th win at that point. That's the ultimate lock at that point. So especially getting a top 25 win, that's locking you into the tournament, in my opinion. What do you think of that game?
Yeah,
I think Ohio State wins.
Yeah, it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
It'll be a really good game, and it's two equally matched teams, in my opinion. I think Michigan might have a little more talent, but I think Ohio State plays a little bit. What was it? I
think Ohio State's. I just said I think Ohio State's a little more talented. I think Michigan's better defensively. I think Ohio State's got more offensive talent. I think Ohio State's deeper. By neutral court, I would favor Ohio State personally. But again, maybe that's
Michigan's playing good right now. I mean, you got to.
That's the other thing. Yeah.
It's going to be a good game. Again, most games, unless there's a Nebraska or Northwestern attached to it, even Minnesota, Purdue are going to. Teams playing those teams, you got to be ready to play because those two teams are in desperation mode. Like they're battling for their postseason lives. They know that they're not technically out, but they have to win out. They can't afford to lose. Every game to them, Minnesota and Purdue is a tournament game. It's like they're already in. It's like they've already got their ticket to the big dance. They're already starting March Madness because if they lose, they're done. And they know that. That's a different mindset as a player. You've been there, Kevin, in a tournament. We can't lose or we're done. We go home if we lose. I've been there as a player in a regular season. Like it's a must win. And you do, I hate to say it, but you do prepare differently when you're in a desperation mode. Sometimes it can backfire because you overdo it, because you're too hyper, you've overthought too much. But teams that can corral that enthusiasm, that intensity, like this is a must win, and they can go and showcase their talent, it's tough. So, well, we'll see. All right, what else we got?
2 games left. Nebraska at home against Northwestern.
Woo!
Right. Woo.
Can't get a tie on that?
Yeah, maybe. After 5 overtime.
Tie no bet like in the Champions League and the Premier League?
Right. Yeah.
Does it have an early line for a favorite on that one?
Not where I'm looking, no. Tickets as low as $2.
Well,
that can't be right.
That's far
$2? $2 for a ticket? That's what it says. Tickets as low as $2. There's no way.
Northwestern?
That's flipped at Nebraska.
That's at Nebraska.
How is it possible to buy a ticket for $2? Like that's a thing.
I'm surprised they're not giving them away.
Well, I agree with you, but
I'm surprised they're not paying people to come.
Yeah, you could see your bad team win.
That's not on prime.
Cool.
What's the prime time TV schedule on that one?
That's BTN 415. After that, 6:30, last game, Wisconsin at home against Minnesota. I just think Minnesota's done. I think Purdue's done. I think Minnesota's done. Wisconsin's doing well.
They're doing well. They should win the game, but again,
yeah,
So here's the thing. This is game 2 of the week for Minnesota. A lot of this is going to depend on what happens earlier in the week. If they fall below 500 and then travel to Madison, it's a done deal. Wisconsin's going to win. I'll bet on Wisconsin all day. If Minnesota can somehow get a win earlier in the week, and now they've rode this wave of emotion, and they got that first win of the week, I might take Minnesota over Wisconsin at home. But it all depends on what happens earlier in the week. And here's my thing. Earlier in the week, I give them about a 1% chance of winning at home.
Right.
So if that tells you anything, I'm taking Wisconsin at home on Sunday. Because I don't think Minnesota gets it done earlier in the week. Just don't think it happens. Just saying it. You just can't roll over against Minnesota or Purdue. And I've really been saying this all year. I was on Northwestern and Nebraska's bandwagon all year. Even though they're losing all these games, you watch some of these games in the first half, these teams are hanging in there for a little bit, and then the talent just overtakes them, and then they lose. But what happens when there's a team where that talent, we just talked about it, is lackadaisical, and they go into halftime down by 8? They should be able to win the second half, but, I mean, it's just one of those things. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. That's why you got to be prepared against teams 11, 12, 13, and 14. You need to be prepared from the tip, and you need to be ready to play 40 minutes. It's easier said than done, though. We sit here and say it. Yeah, they got to be ready to play. Well, I've been in both sides. I've been a player. I've been a coach. It is much easier said than done to prepare a team against a lesser quality team and somehow tell them you've got to play for 40 minutes or else. Because, again, they're young kids. They just think they're going to win. So that's all I got, youngster.
That's all for me as well. Not going to expand.
All right. Let the listeners know where they can find our stuff.
At Youngster Old Man on Twitter is the hub, so to say. Troy tweets out all the links for all the shows we do, not just Big Ten related, but the 2 radio shows that we do as well, that, go from Colorado market to Cleveland market to Pittsburgh market. So good national stuff there. Obviously, if you're listening to this at this point, we thank you, and you know where to find our Big Ten stuff. But especially on Twitter, also Facebook at Youngster Old Man. That's the way to find us.
Yeah, I got last week's episode up on our homepage. If you want to find it, go follow us on Twitter at Youngster Old Man. Everything's at Youngster Old Man. Very easy to find. It's all one word. But we do. I just want to throw this out there. We don't say it enough, Kevin. I think we say it, but just wanted to throw it out there. We appreciate every listener that clicks on this. And if you've listened this long, it's a little bit over an hour, about an hour and 20 minutes, somewhere in there. We do appreciate it. We really do appreciate every single listener. We know how many people listen to our shows. We see the demographic. We see the numbers. So we appreciate everybody that listens in. Thank you for supporting us and allowing us to stay on the air. If nobody listened, we want them to stay on the air. So with that said, Youngster, I hope you enjoy your rainy afternoon. It is coming down like cats and dogs in the NCAA. I will get back with you probably, we're not doing another show this week. Next week, do radio. But again, hope everybody enjoyed the show. Talk to you soon. Have a good night.